with that being said, we should now move on to the main event. And a big part of our show will be, like I said, we're going to play now the Drew McIntyre interview from when we spoke to him a while back. Myself and Dan had the pleasure of sitting down with the man himself, way before the social distancing age. So it's all right, guys. With that in mind, roll the footage.
So yeah, Scott here for Rebellious Noise. So I just want to first off touch about when you came back to the WWE and you came to NXT. What would you say to those wrestlers who may be in a similar position that you were in, like the first time when you left and you basically rebuilt your career and come back, and the option to come back was to go to NXT? And some people might, I think before you did it, might look to that as almost like not really getting back there and having a downgrade and being tested again. But I think you proved that it was a great thing to do, and it basically catapulted you into the main roster in a positive way. What would you say to wrestlers who maybe aren't sure still, like as far as your experiences doing that?
About going to NXT? Or?
Yeah, going to NXT rather than coming back and getting, some people might be expecting to be signed and go straight to the main roster because they were there already.
I forgot they were there in the past. Yeah, I think that'd be a mistake. I wanted to go to NXT. When I spoke to Triple H on the phone about coming back, I was trying to make up my mind where I was going to go next. And Japan was on my radar for a long time, and that was definitely something I was considering. But once I spoke to him and heard what he had to say, and also been following what I was up to, and I was kind of proud to see that finally start putting the pieces together and fulfilling my potential and growing up a little bit. I think we're both on the same page when it came to NXT. I was very clear I want to go to NXT first because they're the kind of more knowledgeable fans. They're aware what Drew McIntyre is about these days, and to jump into Raw or SmackDown I think would be an error for anybody that's outside the company. Because not only do you get that fan base in NXT where people are aware of what you were outside the company and you can introduce yourself to that audience, which in turn lets the WWE audience see you on the network and all the other platforms that NXT is on, but it's also a fantastic experience. If you're experienced, you get the chance to be a leader there, and like one person can make a difference in NXT. Because as you say, a lot of the top guys move across, or traded to Raw or SmackDown, and that leaves openings at the top of the card for experienced guys to come in and lead the ship or steer the ship and really show the company what you're capable of and start earning that trust. Or you could just dive in at the deep end and run SmackDown where it's go and changing all the time. Or you could be sensible and go to NXT. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I definitely think it was a wise decision for you, and people like Nakamura who haven't wasn't in WWE previously, but took the same sort of route, and I think it's positive. And you coming back in, I think for those that didn't see what you were doing outside WWE, it was a good reintroduction, because obviously it's the same Drew McIntyre, but it's a different Drew McIntyre at the same time. And one of the differences that I know a lot of fans mentioned at first was the loss of your awesome theme music. Do you have any kind of feelings towards that old song? I mean, I like your new one, don't get me wrong, and a big entrance with the bagpipes was cool. But you had a really, really cool theme song, and I think a lot of people would like to see you maybe do it in a special occasion, maybe once. Is that possible?
I'm sure it's possible eventually. I see a comment about it at least every day.
Yeah.
And sometimes 10 a day or sometimes 100 a day, or the social media team tells me they're always asking for it.
Yeah.
But that music was awesome, and it suited what I was doing at the time. I don't know if it necessarily suits like Drew McIntyre now, as opposed to the kind of the war drums and the bagpipes that I come out to now. But I think it's safe to say at some point on a special occasion,
like a throwback,
up, when the time is right, and then hopefully everybody remembers it.
That'd be good.
Just wanted to know, so when you first started in WWE, came up to the main roster, I believe you were 23, 24 at the time, and you were instantly thrown into a program with Mr. McMahon. You were the chosen one and became like the Intercontinental Champion within the first 4 months. You were like, I think, one of the youngest Intercontinental Champions ever. How much pressure did you feel was on you at that time, and what did you learn from working that close with Vince every single...
there's obviously, I guess, a lot of pressure. When I was younger, just nothing fazed me. So I didn't really see it as pressure. I just saw it as, this is pretty cool. But I did learn a lot. Perhaps it was, looking back now, I know it was a bit much that I was ready for at the time, but I wouldn't change it because obviously my journey led me to where I'm at now. But yeah, that's such a crazy thing to look back on, that I got that opportunity to do the chosen one thing. I remember the promo he did when he was in the ring. I never knew he was going to do it. I was supposed to just walk out and talk, and they said, wait 1 second, Vince is going to say something. And all the stuff he said about future world champion and reminds him of himself, etc. I was watching that live with everyone else, and then I had to walk out there and shake his hand and do the thing and act like this is normal. So yeah, it was a cool period. And again, you know, Vince has a bit of a crystal ball. He seems to predict the future. I think he was talking about the network long before there ever was a network, and there's various other examples I'm sure I could find, but he said future world champion, he didn't specify when.
Exactly.
It's going to happen.
Do Britain proud, become the first British champion, and
Let's have it.
let's do it.
Yes.
McIntyre champion.
If I have to bloody steal it, or just go down there and just pin them for real, I'm going to do it.
Well, there you go, guys. Hopefully that's got you in the mood for what we're about to talk about, which is the Drew McIntyre match against Brock Lesnar, and finally conquering his dreams, I guess, his goals. Great interview. Well, that's a bit big-headed, really, isn't it? Great to sit down and chat with Drew, like we mentioned. Before we go on, though, and talk about that, I want to quickly say thank you for listening, guys. If this is your first time, please come back. Please subscribe. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and obviously we've got our YouTube channel as well under Rebellious Noise. But everywhere else, you can find the Talking Beans podcast if you search for Talking Beans. But I'm sure if you search Rebellious Noise, it might come up anyway. It's rebnoise.com, rebnoise.com. Anyway, guys, let's move on to the main event and Drew McIntyre winning. Now, I feel that we're just going to talk about Drew winning here because, like I alluded to earlier, wasn't really much of a match. In the grand scheme of things, right decision. Drew should be the champ. I'm glad he won it. Do you feel like it was the right time, considering?
Yeah, I mean, this was the one that I think I was most expecting to happen. And also, the match was probably exactly what I was expecting. I think it would have been different had there been fans. But if there's one person who's not going to do above and beyond when there's no fans, Lesnar. Hit me with some finishes. I'll let you with some finishes. I'll give you the title.
I mean, it's fine for what it is, you know, but I say it's just we can't beat around the bush and pretend it was a match, or a good match. It weren't. And that was a bit difficult coming after the Firefly Funhouse as well. But
it's more of a match than that.
Yeah, I guess so. Anyway, general thoughts on it, Dan?
So I think it was one. I think Drew should have. He should have won the title. I think a while back. I think when he was initially the chosen one, he'd even said he was a bit young then. But yeah, I think it was the right time for him to win the title. It would have been nice for him to win it in an actual stadium. Full of people, but I think the emotion that he showed at the end, where he basically was just saying to the fans, you might not be here in the building, but you're here,
when he had his hand towards the camera saying thank you. Great moment.
It's it just shows how much it means to him, and I think we're just all now waiting for the WrestleMania moment next year in the middle of the ring when you get Heath Slater, Jinder Mahal, and Drew McIntyre, the big three-man band.
Can you imagine if
coming down,
Heath now wins the world title? I'd be up for it, mate. Yeah.
To be fair, if they're putting the Universal title on Goldberg and stuff like that,
might as well put it on someone that's
It's not going to be out of the realms of possibility for Heath Slater to be Universal Champion.
I wouldn't mind, mate. I wouldn't mind.
But no, I think for Drew himself, I think the journey that he's had when he was gone from WWE, then he'd left, and the fact that he was at an event out in America, and then he's oh, by the way, I'm going to go back to NXT. It's shit, and then he's gone to NXT. He's kind of paid his dues all over again, and I think he is probably one of the hottest things in WWE at the moment.
And it felt right, man. It felt naturally built up. It didn't feel forced.
And it's one of these things as well with when you've got Brock Lesnar behind you as well. Brock was essentially the one pushing for Drew to win the title. He's no, I want to drop it to him.
Oh, really?
You don't always get that from Brock. And, you know, it was apparently the Royal Rumble thing was all Brock's idea.
Which was, like, looking back at that, how good was that as well? Like, we mentioned it on that pod, obviously, but they've told a really, really good story. I'm really pleased with it.
I think it's been built really, really well.
Yeah.
As I say, you know, I'm ecstatic for him that he's won it, but it's just sad. Like, I think it's for everything, really, you know, and, you know, just a shout out, Drew, the first ever British WWE champion. You know, that is just an incredible achievement in itself. You know,
which is crazy. You feel like it would have happened a long time ago as well, considering
she had, like,
some of the talent we've had.
Regal.
Yeah, at least for those.
You know,
like Regal, you know, looked like, especially when Regal had that, was it 2008? Around when he was like GM and stuff, like he was on fire then, man. That would have been good. And that was later in his career. But yeah, it's a shame. And Barrett as well. That should have happened against Cena. But anyway, it's happened now. And
also,
very glad.
The show, the entire WrestleMania thing. So if you go for the main cards, it was bookended by Scottish people becoming champion.
I know.
Cross in the first one, Drew McIntyre at the end. So
they've done well, the old Scots.
They've
done well.
Well, to be fair, at the moment they're British.
Oh, when they lose, they're Scottish.
They're Scottish.
The old Andy Murray treatment. Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and like the fact that he won. I do, like you, Dan, feel that I need to see the moment, though. I need to see it with the fans. But at the same time, what made me think they were going to still do it is that if you talk to Drew, I'm sure he would have,
which we did,
preferred. Yeah, I'm sure he would have preferred, you know, the fairy tale like we all would have. But at the same time, I also saw a clip of him saying it wouldn't be, you know, like, because he did I think either a 24 or a Chronicle or something like that, which I want to watch, about like, he was basically being told in London, I think it was, they said to him, look, there's a chance this might get called off. And he was like, something along the lines of like, you know, it's typical for my kind of story. It fits in sort of thing with what's happened with me. But yeah, I would like to see it with a crowd and that. But if you would have said to him, look, we're going to give you the title, I think he would have just snatched it up, because you can't not take it. Like, part of me was like, no, I wouldn't want to take it then. But that chance, we know how this business works, man. Like, you hear so many things from over the years. If you don't accept it then, you might never get that. You know, like, let alone what's going on with the world, you know, and when are we going to have proper shows again? But creative might change, and you might not be the flavor of the month, and someone might get injured, and they might do something temporarily, and then someone else gets injured and it goes this way. He might never get this opportunity again. So I think surely if he was ever told, look, we can hold off and whatever, I think surely Drew would have gone, you know what? Like, and I thought about it for myself, if it was me. If I ever got an opportunity, I think I'd be gutted, but I'd go, you know what, man, spots changed on this, you know, in this industry so quickly that you just need to.
Like, case in point is like last year when everything was like Mustafa Ali leading up to, like, it was meant to be him in that elimination chamber, and then, you know, he got injured and Kofi took his place. It's like, we would never have had Kofi Mania if it wasn't for, you know,
you just got
injured. And it was
another one is, I think, Mr. Kennedy winning the Money in the Bank. Kennedy. Yeah, Tom wasn't really a fan of him, Dan, as much as me.
I hated that guy.
But I loved it. That was my favourite part of WrestleMania 23.
Yeah, I had to sit through that bloody thing and watch him win that.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. I think it was the only good match on that show. But yeah, I think, I don't know. Like with that, for example, he probably would have been world champ. So, and look at his career is completely different now. All right, he had a good time in TNA for a while, but it would have been different, I think. So, yeah, I think you just got to accept it, and I assume Drew did, and I'm very happy with him winning it.
Do you know, I think a lot of it was actually. I think it was more the fact that Brock was like, you know what, sod it. I don't really want to work any more dates at the minute, so just give the title to someone else. Yeah,
I can't see him doing many more closed events.
I think as well. I think that was the main thing. I think with Goldberg as well was the reason that they made him drop the title was because he's like the amount of money it would cost to get him to come and do another show just to drop the title. They're probably thinking, yeah, it's not worth it. But, you know, credit to Drew McIntyre. Congratulations. And, you know, you're representing Britain.
Yeah.
I hope you hold the title for a long, long time.
Probably will now, mate. There's no shows.
Exactly. So there we go.
See.
This is Peyton. And this is Billy. And we are the Iconics. And we just want you to make sure you're listening to Rebellious Noise.
We've got a lot more wrestling content coming this year as well, guys, so please subscribe to Rebellious Noise on YouTube, check out revnoise.com, and check out our podcast, Talking Beans, where we'll be talking about the main wrestling shows as we do throughout the year.